the viral hepatitis, and all these causes were ruled out. So ultimately, we were in a fix. We could not find out what the cause of the jaundice was. That is the cause of the acute hepatitis was. What we say in medical terms, acute hepatitis. And ultimately, we found out that most of these patients, we went ahead and did a liver biopsy. So a liver biopsy actually gives you two things. One, the cause for the damage and the severity of the damage. So when we looked at the cause for the damage, the liver biopsies had multiple findings, which the pathologist could not actually pinpoint to a single cause, but different types of injuries within the liver in a single patient. So what we did was we retrospectively looked at what all they were having, what all they were doing, and identified that within 1 month to 3 months prior to developing jaundice, these patients were actually consuming a lot of these herbal medicines. It actually includes all types of herbal medicines, not just Ayurveda. It includes Ayurveda, it includes Siddha, it includes folklore medicines, traditional medicines, and also includes a lot of quack medicines, which people just mix and match and give for various ailments. Now, once we identified that they're taking these medicines, then we had to correlate it. So we looked at all these medicines and started analyzing them. The analysis is through a very sophisticated process. We have specific labs for drug testing and analysis. And we found out that most of these medicines herbal medicines actually had a lot of adulteration, from heavy metals to modern medicines to old world painkillers to steroids to even chemotherapy drugs were found in these drugs, in these herbal medicines. So that was one cause for liver injury because of herbal medicines. And second was that we could also identify a lot of these herbal medicines had multiple herbs in it. If you look at a traditional Ayurveda drug called Dashamula Arishtam, it has 10 components in it. Or you look at Triphala, it has 3 herbs in it. So most of these were actually with multiple herbs. And some of these herbs are really toxic. They are non-toxic. For example, you look at Giloy, which is Tinospora cordifolia. It is actually a direct hepatotoxic drug. It actually causes something known as autoimmune hepatitis because it has the potential to change your immune system to injure the organ. And we have found out direct liver toxic agents, indirect liver toxic agents. We found out adulterants and contaminants. So that is how we published the first paper that said that herbal drugs, Ayurveda and traditional herbal drugs are actually harmful to the liver and it can cause liver injury. So that was the first time we started off. And from then onwards, it has become a routine for me to ask for herbal medicines and then in patients with jaundice. And we have published a lot of data on this all over in the last 3 to 4 years. I think this is a very important question. A lot of people have been asking me this, but the issue is that when you're going to test a particular unknown herbal product, you'll have just a packet with multiple colored tablets or a capsule, which there is no labeling, nothing. That is how you usually get an Ayurvedic product, apart from the branded ones. And how do you know what is in it? So what we have to do is, what I do is, we do a very, very sophisticated and exhaustive analysis, something known as inductively coupled ICP OES, it is known as ICP OES or ICP MS. And the second method, what we use is gas chromatography mass spectroscopy, GCMS. And through these two technologies, along with something known as Fourier transformation, that is FTIR, infrared spectroscopy, we identify almost every component that we can identify in that particular drug. Now, this is expensive No, not everybody can do it, because to run all of these three tests to look for heavy metals, inorganic compounds, organic compounds, pesticides, insecticides, steroids, everything, it'll come to like 25,000 to 30,000 rupees per sample, which is very expensive. And but if somebody wants to actually identify a specific drug that they want, for example, somebody who's taking Ayurvedic drugs and has gained weight over few weeks or few months, if you want to check for steroids, then you can go to your regional drug testing lab and then ask them specifically to look for this particular steroid. So that will be very cheap. So that costs maybe a few hundred rupees only, nothing more than that. So if you want to know if a particular arthritis herbal drug has a painkiller in it, you just tell them that I want to know if this painkiller is there in that, and they will identify that exactly for you. And that won't take much. It's not much expensive also. Yeah. This is also an excellent question. I mean, the whole point is that the particular components that we identify from these herbal drugs, we don't have an extensive database on that, even though we have database on these components. For example, if I look at a particular herbal drug and I identify a component known as stigmasterol. Stigmasterol is actually one of the commonest plant sterols that you can identify in a product. Almost all the plants have that particular sterol in it. But if you look at the data on stigmasterol, it very specifically mentions that if you consume stigmasterol for a particular period of time, it can actually cause heart disease. So that data is there. Now, if you look at particular herbs per se, for example, you look at Ctenophorus cordifolia, that is giloy. You look at aloe vera. You look at curcumin from turmeric. So there are specific databases that actually give us information regarding toxicity of these particular herbs. And one such is something known as LiverTox. There is a database run by National Institute of Health in the United States government. It's under the United States government. And the website is known as LiverTox. Yes, it is. It is LiverTox. Yeah. And it gives us a lot of information on herbal liver injuries. They have a huge list, and it is getting updated every few months. And that is a good source for people to go and check on. Yes, so coming to that first question regarding ashwagandha or gokshura, ashwagandha is one of the commonest used herbal products. I mean, I think a lot of them use it as an anti-anxiety, anti-stress. A lot of people actually use it in the gym to increase their cortisol levels and muscle activity and all that. The whole idea is that something has worked for me. So what is the problem with it? Now, if I consume a particular drug and I am okay with it, it does not mean that that particular drug is going to be okay with everyone. So to identify that, we have to run safety trials. And safety trials are part of trials where you actually even identify the benefits of the drug. So our aim is to look at risk versus benefit. So such trials are not available. I mean, a lot of trials are available on ashwagandha, but none of them are actually quality trials to actually showcase safety of ashwagandha. In fact, there was a very recent study on ashwagandha related liver injury, a large series of patients published from the United States and Iceland. It was published in Liver International in 2019. And following that particular study, multiple other studies also have come, which actually shows that a group of people, when they take ashwagandha, they are developing severe liver injury. Now, how do you identify who is developing severe injury or who can develop severe liver injury? That is through only high quality randomized trials, which is currently not available with ashwagandha or even gokshura. And I myself have published on ashwagandha related liver injury. And most of these ashwagandha products are multi-herbal. I mean, they are mixed with other herbs, and that is what causes a lot of liver injury. But pure ashwagandha products can also cause liver injury, and this should be known. Now, the whole point is, people can say, I am taking a painkiller, but painkillers can also cause kidney disease, but still I'm taking it. A lot of people are prescribing it. So we understand who actually develops kidney injury with a painkiller. And we can be sure that those people receive a different dose or a different drug so that they don't develop it. Why? Because we have studies on it. Where is the study on ashwagandha like that? None. There is none. So that is the difference between anecdotal experience where I feel I am okay, but that does not make others okay with that particular drug. We need better quality data on it. That is the first part of the question. Now, the second part was on, I think, Shilajit. So similarly with even with ashwagandha, if you actually look at the data on Shilajit, it is also given for testosterone increment and muscle activity, muscle mass increment, a lot of things. There is no quality data. So whatever people are using Shilajit for has been written in traditional texts, and that has been followed blindly. Now, if you have an idea or a hypothesis, you have to test it. So by testing it, you either get a benefit out of it, and also you can get issues with it. Now, if the issues are more and benefits are less, obviously you throw it out. Now, if there are no benefits and it is safe also, then what is the point of using it? So Shilajit is something like that. I have seen people do Shilajit. Most of them don't develop any major issues, but then there are no benefits to Shilajit also. Whatever benefits they feel are anecdotal or experiential benefits, but not evidence-based benefits. So that is the whole point of Shilajit. So the first and foremost aspect is that traditional medicines are not considered as drugs. If you look at any of these traditional medicine packaging, it's either written as a proprietary Ayurvedic product or a herbal supplement or a health supplement or a food supplement. So if you look at, there is this very famous Ayurveda company called Kottakkal Ayurveda. I'm just giving an example in Kerala. And if you look at the Kottakkal Ayurveda products sold in India, in Kerala and all on the shelves, you can actually see that they actually write stuff like, this Ayurveda product is good for diabetes, it reduces sugar, and etc., etc. For example, they are actually promoting it as a treatment. Now, if you look at the same Ayurveda product in the UK, it's completely different. What they've written on the bottle is that this is a health supplement. It has no treatment value. It will not cure or reduce any disease. So if you want to take it, please take it at your own risk. That is how the writing is there. So the whole point of safety trials, effectiveness trials, benefit trials, all those things are out of the window because these are not marketed actually as drugs. They are thought of as health supplements. But on the contrary, in the real world, on the ground, people actually market it as drugs when it is not actually drugs. They are just supplements. Exactly. So, yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's made to look like that. So if you just give a packet of powder to somebody, I mean, they might not feel appealing. So you put it in the form of a capsule, put it in a packaging. It looks like a modern medicine kind of a packaging, and it looks credible. That is how you sell it. The whole point is that you cannot test these drugs the way we test modern medicines. For example, imagine that you have a multi-herbal product. I mean, you take Coronil, for example. I'm giving you a blanket example. You take Coronil. It says that Coronil can prevent COVID. Now, even if you identify, or if you actually test Coronil in a group of patients and identify that yes, COVID is getting prevented with Coronil, what in Coronil is actually preventing it? Now, that is a question, because Coronil contains so many herbs and so many components. What in that is actually preventing that particular disease is what we should know. And then that is what we should be using, not the whole thing. It's like killing a rat by putting an atom bomb, instead of putting a small cage and trapping it. So that is the difference between testing in herbal products versus testing in modern medicine, because modern medicine focuses on a particular molecule or a compound and then looks at its action and then looks at its side effects. But with Coronil, a product like Coronil or a multi-herbal product, what happens is that even if you test it and identify something is good in it, you don't know what is actually causing that goodness. And plus, if you have a side effect on it, you don't know what is causing that side effect, because there are so many stuff in it. So a focused idea is not there in the researching part of. So when people say that Ayurveda needs more research, or herbal medicines or traditional medicines need more research, which is actually wrong, because you cannot directly research it unless and until you have a proper hypothesis that what you are actually researching. So this aspect that we cannot balance with modern methodologies with respect to traditional medicines is what I feel. So yeah. Yes. So I'll take this as two things. One is that just take an example of Giloy, Tinospora cordifolia. Giloy is being given as Giloy Quat and Giloy tablets and everything even by the health authorities as a preventive for corona. Now, even if Giloy did prevent corona, what in Giloy did that? So you have a lot of, lot of cordifolides, glycosides. You have a lot of different types of plant chemicals in it. So what is actually causing that good effect or a bad effect is it's impossible for us to say. So that is why we cannot test it the way we test modern medicines. And second is this myth that the alternative medicine industry or the alternative medicine research industry does not have money is actually it's a myth. They have a lot of money. The Ayush Ministry has given almost 2,400 crore Indian rupees for studying and researching herbal medicines in India. And also, all of these pharma companies that run the alternative medicine industry, they are billion-dollar companies. They have their own plans, they have their own research facilities, everything. It's just that they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. So they just directly market it and sell. And if they want, we can actually call them as alternative big pharma. Like we have a big pharma, there is an alternative big pharma. Yeah. Yes, there is one like that. So I would make a couple of points there. One is this: when people say that it's Western, I am actually against it because science is science everywhere. Maybe they have a better way of doing research and methodology, and they are actually more interested and more focused in it. And that is why we have a lot of data coming from US and Europe, and a lot of guidelines also from them. And we use it, we extrapolate it. So this westernization of medicine is actually wrong. I would say that it is medicine. Medicine works. The medicine given in India will work in a patient in America also. So it's the same. The whole aspect of business of medicine, yes, there is a business of medicine, and pharma companies definitely are looking at profits. But none of these medicines are actually marketed or brought into the public without any evidence, just like what is been done in India or in traditional medicine, in Ayurveda and Siddha and all that. There is some evidence that these drugs actually undergo a lot of scrutiny and then come into the market. And for that, you need money. And they spend that money. They have to capitalize on that. They have to break even. So that is how that business runs. Now, if you look at the Ayurvedic industry or the Siddha industry or the traditional medicine industry, they are actually enough for research. They don't have to spend anything for looking at safety trials and anything. It's like a health supplement. They can directly market and then reap the benefits, which I think is immoral and unethical. So when we look at actual medicine and the research and methods that are taken up and promoted in the healthy way, like you said, in the right way, in the focus, pure. There is no drugs that are getting, no idea of benefits, and a lot of unknown or potentially known toxic effects. So if you look at that way, it's completely immoral, if you ask me. And medicine is medicine. It's not Western, Eastern, and that is the real medicine, and that is why this is alternative medicine. Yeah, though that's the quote by Tim Minchin. Yeah, the quote by Tim Minchin. Yeah, alternative medicine that works is called as medicine. This is a difficult question because if you ask me, even within evidence-based medicine, modern medicine practice, I am very strict. in what I give my patients. So, so if in that, with that mindset, I have absolutely no, I would say there is absolutely no role of alternative medicine in healthcare, because actually one person actually called me a scientific terrorist because of this outlook, but it's okay, it's fine. So what I do is, even in evidence-based medicine, I don't give unnecessary medicines to patients. Like, for example, what is happening in COVID. Even now, if you go to a peripheral center or a general hospital and or a small private hospital and see how COVID patients are managed, you will see doxycycline, azithromycin, vitamin C, vitamin D, and you will see the whole bunch. That is absolute rubbish. So I am against that completely. So when it comes to traditional medicine, of course, we need more data and more evidence. So, for example, there was this study on curcumin, which is everybody's pet herb, turmeric. So they looked at the role of curcumin in a condition known as inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis. And what they identified was that, multiple trials have been done in that. And ultimately, there was a huge systematic analysis of all these trials. So this is the kind of evidence that we want. This is the kind of studies that we want. And the systematic analysis actually showed that in patients who are dependent on a lot of immunosuppression medicines for control of inflammatory bowel disease, addition of curcumin may help them be in remission longer. And this is already proven, but it is not recommended. But there is some data to show that there is some use of curcumin in that particular population. So if we have more data like that, specific disease conditions in specific patients, where it's not just one trial or two trials, but a good systemic analysis and a meta-analysis, then definitely, yes, I would definitely prescribe that particular traditional medicine or a herb for that particular condition. But since that is not there, I would definitely not recommend anybody to go for a traditional medicine, because what can improve without a traditional medicine, what can improve with a traditional medicine can improve without a traditional medicine also. So that is the situation currently on ground. So that is the whole point. Yeah. 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 Yeah, one is appeal to time. It has been there for so long, so it is not going to harm you. So the herbal part is natural and it is safe is actually a myth. It can harm you more. In fact, there was a study from Taiwan which actually says they compared herbal medicine liver injury versus modern medicine liver injury and showed that herbal medicine liver injury patients actually died more. So the side effect profile, even though it is there in both, it can actually be higher with herbal medicines. The risk of death, the risk of any major events, clinical problems can also be higher with herbal medicine. So this data is there. It's already published data. This paper came in Hepatology International in 2020. And the second aspect of is the media. Media has a huge role. They have a huge responsibility towards public healthcare, which in India is in shambles. It is non-existent. So if there is a particular study on, say, for example,
static electricity, which is. Am I audible?
Yes, you're not audible, Dr. Vishal.
What was the last thing you heard?
Yeah, so about the acrylic and the radiation part was what I heard last.
Okay, so after that, I said that I would answer that, and what I ended up saying was about how the radiation, what the person is mentioning, unusual techie is the name, the audience member. What radiation he is saying is actually static electricity, and it is quite harmless. I hope my audio was fine and everybody could listen to that. We've had a lot of technical problems in between. The audio was missing for quite a long, because the trouble is that on YouTube via another software, things start to get
Yeah, it was breaking in between.
yeah.
But I hope people could hear the
Yeah,
important parts of the
I,
conversation.
I,
Yeah.
I, I sincerely hope that, because I don't really come to know until it is all done. So we've had a good chat of around 40 minutes, and it was a real pleasure to have you for this evening. And I'm so thankful that I could really speak to you and get your thoughts around the questions which I also wanted to ask, and I hope it was helpful for people who are listening, in spite of all the technical glitches that we had. So thank you everyone for being here,
Yeah.
and it was a lovely evening. It was great talking to you, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah.